We are live here. You're watching NFL Daily. Mitchell Renz ready to go through an awesome show, jam-packed with tons of information. But here's the thing, y'all. Today's show is presented by our good friends and awesome sponsor, Manscaped. It's the summer. It's hot as balls, and I want to make sure that your balls are looking great and smelling great. How do you do that? By going to manscaped.com/chat and getting 20% off and free shipping. So coming up here on today's show, we're going to go through some NFL news, and there's actually quite a bit of stuff to go through. We're going to talk about rumors. We're going to look at Lamar Jackson. We're going to talk about Sam Darnold. We're going to look at a potential suspension and Alvin Kamara. As always, we got two mailbags slotted in. You guys can use hashtag NFL, or you can super chat to make sure those questions and comments get on the show. We got preseason week 1 winners and losers, and then over on Rumble and Rumble only NFL trade candidates. So before I give you some of my preseason week 1 winners, I want to know from all of our awesome viewers right now, down in the comments section, give me a preseason week 1 winner. It can be a quarterback, it can be a head coach, running back, wide receiver, whoever you believe came out of that preseason game as a winner. I want to know what you guys are thinking, and we are going to give some shout-outs here on the show. I see Nick Fury. We got Kareth. Appreciate you guys tuning in. The RC Plane Builder says Desmond Ridder, which I agree with. Tristan Bravo, what up, my dog? Drew Lock, despite he fumbled at the end, from Nick Fury, 55. Josh Lane says the Baltimore Ravens. Skylar Thompson from Thomas. Yeah, I agree on that one. Adventures often's going to go with Desmond Ridder. Patty Mahomes from Chris Williams. Let me know, guys, what you're thinking. We got 55 people tuned in right now to our live show. Let's get those numbers up here a little bit. Definitely Drew Lock from Karth. Desmond Ridder from Vervid. Kyle Trask, yikes, from Tristan. Give me a preseason week 1 winner, because coming up here on today's show, I am going to be giving you guys the information that you're looking for the winners and the losers. Now, when you look at the preseason, I get it, okay? I understand that sometimes people overhype the preseason, and sometimes I do think that we don't look at it enough. But which NFL team impressed you the most from this week? If we look at from the games from the Raiders game yesterday, I'm talking every single preseason football game, which team impressed you the most? I understand that this team lost the game, but I did like what I saw out of Jacksonville from their starters with Trevor Lawrence. I think Doug Peterson, you can already see a clear change from Urban Meyer to Peterson. Josh Lang says the Bears coming out with a win. I was impressed by the 49ers. Trey Lance was definitely pretty damn good to me. The Bears scared me, that offensive line, no doubt about it. Curie Family Gaming says the Houston Texans. Adventure says Falcons, based on the improvement from last season. I mean, when you look at the preseason, Atlanta's definitely a team that I want to be able to wrap my mind around, because not a lot of people see them going very far. But when you have a young quarterback like Desmond Ridder step up, make a few clutch plays like he did with his arm and with his legs, yes, I agree. My Holy King says the Jets. Josh Lang, Matt Nagy was fired. Yeah, that was a long time ago. Yeah, seriously, from Kathir, My Holy King says Jets. 72 y'all tuned in right now. Which NFL team has impressed you the most? So anytime we talk about winners, we also got to talk about losers. And it's a tough thing to do because, again, it's the preseason. But it is my job as a host, and I do think a lot of times it's your job as a fan, it's your job as a viewer at home to sit there and give honest takes, because that's what this show here is about. So give me a week 1 loser. Ian Book. Yep, Ian Book I figure was going to get thrown in there. I mean, realistically, that entire, I'll say, Colts offense with Matt Ryan out there, yeah, I get it, Jonathan Taylor wasn't playing, but there was a lot to be left desired, which I think we would all agree on. Kathir is going to go with the Patriots. Josh Lang says the Chiefs. Adventure says Watson looked bad. I'm not going to put the full blame on Deshaun, even though he was 1 of 5 for 7 yards. There were 3 drops. But if you're going to send out your starting quarterback who you just pay $230 million guaranteed dollars to, and you don't get anything in a preseason game on 3 drives, there's going to be some overreactions. The Eagles from My Holy King. The Patriots really did not anything whatsoever. Junior, we got Baker Mayfield in there. Nashawn Wright from Clayton Lockhart. Chow says Alex Leatherwood. Case Keenum did not look good. You're right. But you know what? They still came away with a win. All right, y'all, if you're ready for the NFL season to get started, I want you to like the video right now because Chat Sports is all about interacting with the audience. Yeah, I get it. I'm the host up here. Jack's the producer back there. But these shows aren't possible if it wasn't for our awesome audience. So if you could, like the video right now. It helps us out a lot. But also, the NFL season is getting closer and closer. I mean, I woke up this morning. I looked at my calendar, and I was like, holy shit. It's freaking August 15th, man. Like, we got less than 4 weeks until NFL action. Real NFL action. And I don't know about you, I'm ready for the season to get started. So coming up here on our live show, we're going to go through some news and rumors. Looks like the Ravens just cut Corey Clement and defensive back Robert Jackson. Remember, NFL teams have to get from 90 all the way down to 85 by 4 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Then we'll do 2 mailbags. You guys can already start to use hashtag NFL or Super Chat. Preseason Week 1 winners or losers, and then NFL trade candidates over on Rumble. If you want to hop on over to Rumble right now, it is rumble.com/NFL Daily to tune in and watch, which I always recommend everyone doing because if you don't, well, then, hey, you're not going to be able to see it. I don't know about y'all. I'm ready to get today's show rocking and rolling, so if you could, please like the video. Coming up right now, NFL news and rumors. You're watching NFL Daily. Mitchell Renz here from Chat Sports. And coming up here on today's show, we're going to look at Lamar Jackson, latest around his contract extension. He said some interesting things, and I figured I'll talk about that news, and then I'll project what type of deal I believe the Ravens quarterback's going to get. Sam Darnold, he's been mentioned in a trade rumor. We'll talk about that. Alvin Kamara, is he going to end up getting suspended? I know my fantasy teams want to know. And then at the very end of this cut, we're going to go through all the NFL news and important notes that happened today. But let's first talk about Lamar. And Jackson was asked, hey, what's going on here with this contract extension? And he kind of implied that he's going to cut off the extension negotiations with the Ravens once the season starts. And you hear a lot about contract negotiations, especially with quarterbacks, because of the offseason that we've had with multiple quarterbacks getting big-time deals. But the thing with Lamar is there's not a lot of urgency, or at least it doesn't really seem like there is a lot of urgency from him and his camp. Remember, his agent is his mother. So, there's a lot of people like, Lamar, you got to get this process started a little quicker. But for him, he's like, you know what? I'm not going to talk about it once the season starts. And the season for Baltimore starts on September 11th versus the New York Jets. For me personally, if I'm Lamar and if I'm the Ravens, I want to try to get this deal done way before this happens, because as far as I'm concerned, and this has been something that I know almost every single host has talked about on this show, the longer and longer you wait, the more and more money it's probably going to cost. Like if they would have got it done before Kyler Murray would have got it done earlier in the offseason, it probably would have been a little bit cheaper. Now, Yahoo Sports had this to say on Jackson's contract extension. Jackson will likely seek to surpass Murray's $230.5 million figure. While Murray has shown flashes of brilliance, Jackson has performed much better over his career. He has a pretty good argument to get more money. Now, when you talk about getting more money than Murray, as it stands right now, you look at the highest paid quarterbacks per year, Aaron Rodgers comes in at number 1 with 50.27. Murray on screen at 46.1. Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen. What's going to be interesting, though, to see with Jackson's contract is how much of the guarantees come in, because Deshaun Watson's deal has really screwed up a lot of things, and I think what you're going to see is a mix between Watson's deal and a mix between Kyler Murray's deal, because Murray got 160, Watson got 230. And I'm telling y'all right now, if I'm Lamar Jackson's agent, I'm looking for that type of dollar bills, y'all. So let me know, will Lamar Jackson's contract surpass Kyler Murray? When you see the Murray deal, okay, it is $46 million per year. 230 and a few change that got over Deshaun Watson's deal. Is it going to surpass that? If you're like, yes, it is, I want you to type P for pass. If you're like, you know what? I don't think he's going to get there. I want you to type W for won't. I'm going to sit up here and very confidently say, yes, it's going to surpass Kyler Murray for 2 reasons. One, I can make an argument that Lamar Jackson has a better overall career thus far than Kyler Murray. Also, it's just how contracts work in the NFL. Whoever gets the one deal If the quarterback is legit, chances are he's going to get a bigger deal. I think the real question is, how much guaranteed dollars does he get? Because if Deshaun Watson's getting $230 million and Kyler Murray had $160 million, you have to sit there as the agent and say, I want more money than Kyler Murray. I don't know if you're going to get as much as Deshaun, but you should make the argument. I mean, there's no way that you can walk into that room and say, hey, if Deshaun Watson's getting that much money, I don't deserve that much money. Here's the issue, though. With the type of quarterback that Jackson is, and I do think that he is more susceptible to injuries compared to Deshaun because Lamar uses his legs a little bit more, so the guaranteed dollars might come down. So if you were to ask me, Mitch, what type of contract extension do you think Lamar's going to get? Here's my projection. I'm going to go 5 years, $240 million, which is $48 million a year, which is right between Aaron Rodgers and right between Deshaun Watson, right between Kyler Murray. But instead of giving him a big old $230 million guaranteed like Deshaun got, I'm going to give him $200 million guaranteed. It's a lot of money, no doubt about that. And these quarterbacks continue to get bigger and bigger contracts as it goes. So when you see that figure, 5 years, $240 million, $48 million a year, $200 million in guaranteed dollars, is Lamar Jackson worth that much? Why for yes and for no? If you're like, man, this guy's asking me a lot of questions, you're probably new to what we do here at Chat Sports, and I'm going to ask you questions because I don't like doing anything in life where I'm just sitting there talking to myself. Do you believe that Lamar Jackson is worth that type of money? I'm going to be looking down in the comments. Coming up next here on NFL Daily, Alvin Kamara. Is he going to be suspended? I know this has been a very popular topic in fantasy football circles for Saints fans and NFL fans around the world. Before I tell you what Adam Schefter had to say, remember, y'all, you can also give us a follow over on Rumble. If you're always wondering, hey, how can I listen to this show like a podcast? We are ad-free, and my favorite thing about listening to our shows over on Rumble, which you can do at rumble.com/NFL Daily, is when you're watching on YouTube and you minimize the screen, the show stops. It pauses. On Rumble, you minimize the screen, and it keeps on rolling. So if you're walking your dog, if you're driving down the road, whatever you're doing, you can still listen to the show in the background and have it in your pocket. Check it out. I think you'll like it. Rumble.com/NFL Daily. Let's talk about Alvin Kamara, Saints running back. And Jeremy Fowler said there's no firm timeline for a Kamara suspension. He said that early on Monday. Then Adam Schefter, a little bit later on, said more and more unlikely that Kamara will be disciplined, or unlikely Kamara will be disciplined this season. Remember, Alvin was arrested in February, got into a fight in Las Vegas right before the Pro Bowl, still ended up playing in the Pro Bowl, which is kind of wild. But a lot of times what you see with suspensions is dates get pushed back, and they get pushed back, and they get pushed back. My take has always been, I don't think he's going to get suspended this season. As soon as I saw that the court date got pushed to September 29th, I believe the date was, I was like, he ain't getting suspended this season. So if you're in fantasy football leagues, if you're a Saints fan, I don't think that anything's going to happen this year, but watch out for 2023 because then Kamara could end up getting a few suspensions. So what do you think here, y'all? Let's just say Kamara, no suspensions happen. You're going to project him to play an entire 17-game season. Is he a top 5 running back in fantasy football? And August is the month that I like to ask these questions because my entire background has been doing fantasy football videos. That's how I actually started working here at Chat Sports, and, well, I got a fantasy football league with my family going on 16 years now. So do you think that Kamara is a top 5 running back in fantasy football, type 5 for top 5, or type 0 for not type 5? I think if it's PPR, you could definitely make the argument that he's top 5. But in the leagues that I play in, I play half-point PPR, which means, no, I don't view him as a top 10 back. However, he is very, very close. And if you were to ask me, Mitch, who are your top 10 running backs right now, if it was a half-point PPR league, I would have it as Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler. And then if it was a PPR league, I would actually probably bump up Alvin Kamara. I could even make the argument to bump down Derrick Henry a little bit. But as you can see, a lot of talented running backs. And if you guys have any questions whatsoever about the NFL, about fantasy football, please don't hesitate for a second not to hit me up on Instagram. My DMs are open. I like chatting about football. I like talking to people about fantasy football. So if you have an Instagram, you can just hit me up at MitchellRenz365. Or if it's easier for you, get out your camera, scan that QR code, and fire the questions away. Let's talk about quarterback now, Sam Darnold of the Carolina Panthers. And he was most recently featured in an article by Bleacher Report titled, "One Player Each NFL Team Should Put on the Trade Block This Preseason." When I saw that, I went through the notes, I looked, and I was like, okay, what is a player that sticks out to me that I actually 100% agree with? And it is Darnold. Yeah, Matt Corral was bad in the preseason game. There's no other way you can look at it. He was bad. The rookie, 1-9, but it does look like this is going to be Baker Mayfield's team. And if you're Sam Darnold, a former number 3 overall pick, if you're Carolina, who just drafted a QB, you might as well try to ship him out and just try to get something. This is what Bleacher Report had to say on trading Sam Darnold. The Carolina Panthers kicked the tires on Sam Darnold last year after the young quarterback failed to pan out for the New York Jets. Although they gave up several draft picks, including a 2022 second rounder to get him, the team looks ready to move on already this offseason, which realistically shouldn't surprise many people for the simple fact of, hey, this is going to be Baker Mayfield's team. That's why they made the deal for him. Another quote here coming in from Bleacher Report. Darnold will be fighting an uphill battle to get his starting job back after the Panthers swung a trade for Baker Mayfield. Mayfield was named the starter for Carolina's first preseason game and seems to be well on his way to passing the incumbent quarterback one. If Darnold gets dealt to a team that can maximize his talent and can stay healthy, the signal caller has yet to play a full NFL season, there is still a chance he turns his flailing career around. Now, I do agree with that. The issue is this. What team's going to make a deal for him? I mean, if you were an NFL team, right, because the team that I have right now would say probably is the weakest at quarterback, it's probably the Atlanta Falcons or the Seattle Seahawks. You're not going to trade them to Atlanta because that's an interdivision team. And would Seattle do it? Like, is Darnold better than Drew Lock or Geno Smith? I don't know. But then all three of those quarterbacks, like if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. What happens if you have 3? I feel like that's even worse. So where's Sam Darnold going to play this upcoming season? If you think it's going to be in Carolina, I want you to type CAR for the Panthers. If you feel like he's going to be going somewhere else, please type O for other. Coming up next here on NFL Daily, let's go through here and look at some NFL news and notes of some important things that happen around the National Football League. The one day that I want you to keep track of, or actually I should say 3 days, because one's coming up tomorrow, is on Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, so August 16th. All teams must go from 90 down to 85. Then the 23rd, you go from 85 to 80. But what's important here is you go from 90 to 85. And a few teams have already started to make a few cuts. A few teams have already moved on from a few players, but it is important to watch. In terms of some stuff that happened today, the Broncos, they signed linebacker Joe Schobert, who at one time I was like, man, this guy's really legit. He's had a few injuries, has bounced around a little bit. Also for the Broncos, though, Randy Gregory and Billy Turner are finally cleared to practice. Let's talk about Denzel Ward, one of the best young cornerbacks in the National Football League. The Browns have activated him from the PUP list, which now he can begin practicing. And for a lot of these star, young, studded players, you want the timetable to give them about 3 weeks until the actual NFL season starts. Bad news here for 49ers fans. Jimmie Ward got a hamstring injury. That was reported last week, but Kyle Shanahan now says it's worse than others. Like, it's worse than expected. And any time I see hamstring, especially when you can see the coach's face like it's not good, they can linger. Not good news for the San Francisco 49ers. Some good news, though, for the Baltimore Ravens. Marcus Peters finally has passed his physical. He's off the PUP list. If you guys remember last season, right before the Monday Night Football game up against the Raiders in Week 1, he tore his ACL. He's getting up there in age. Baltimore's done a lot of things this offseason to build around that secondary. Let's go talk about another cornerback here, Mackenzie Alexander. He signed with the Miami Dolphins after a workout, and the reason why they did this is because Miami was hoping to have Trill Williams. Unfortunately for him, he got injured, and he is out for the season, which is why Miami went and made this deal here. Speaking of deals, this one happened literally just like an hour ago. Shout out to Chase Sr. and shout out to Tyler Jones for breaking both of these stories down on our Eagles and Seahawks channel. But this was the trade that went down. The Eagles, they received Ugo Amadi. The Seattle Seahawks got J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who technically now is a tight end, but he was drafted as a wide receiver. If you want to let me know who you think wins this trade, type PHI for Philadelphia or SCA for the Seahawks. All right, y'all, coming up next here on NFL Daily, we are going to get ready to hop on into a mailbag, which is simple. Use hashtag NFL or Super Chat. Before we get into that, though, let me know. Shout out your favorite NFL team. I always like to see, I know my bosses like to see, and usually when we get done with shows here, I'll head out into the Chat Sports bullpen, and we always like to brag with each other like, oh, you see Raider Nation's repping? Like today, Seahawks fans are in the chat. We got some Patriots fans in the chat. I want to know which team, what fan bases are watching our shows, because if you don't think that we sometimes curate content to hit what our fan base is watching, you're crazy. So if you want to see more Raiders content, you want to see more 49ers, Seahawks content, hey, then let's go. Start repping your team right now in the chat. I see Jeff Rogers is watching, Raiders fan. Ray, Chicago Bears. Juan Hernandez, Raiders. Catholic, Seahawks. Rams from S&M. Appreciate you, dude. We got Alliance from Tony. Seahawks again. Bears, Seahawks, Patriots. It's a pretty mixed bag right now. Almost 200 people tuning in. If you haven't already, shout out your favorite NFL team. If you want to ask me a question about your favorite team, you can use hashtag NFL or you can super chat. I'm going to be answering questions, let's say, for the next, 12, 15 minutes or so. And if you want to guarantee a spot, you super chat. If you super chat, it can be $1, $2, $5, $10, whatever you want it to be. Support the free show. We appreciate it, but it is a way to guarantee a spot here on our mailbag. Let me get a sip of water, and then we'll get into this bad boy. Y'all ready? All right, let's get into this NFL mailbag right now. It's mailbag time here. Mitchell Renz, you're watching NFL Daily by Chat Sports. This video was recorded live on Monday, so if anything changes, just please keep that in mind. The first question is coming in here from Karith. Hopefully I pronounced that one right. What grade would you give the Seahawks overall this offseason based on their new draft additions and free agency additions up until now, excluding the Russell Wilson trade? I was going to say, excluding the Russell Wilson trade, I'd probably give them a C. I don't know if they did anything excellent in the draft. I don't know if they've done anything excellent in free agency. It is good that they extended DK Metcalf, but you're asking me to exclude the biggest thing that happened to the Seahawks this offseason. And if you include the Russell Wilson trade, I'm sorry, it's an F, because you go from being a playoff caliber team to, I believe now most people, myself included, would probably put Seattle in the bottom 5 teams in the NFL. What up, Chew Lord? Do you think Drake Jackson would be good for week 1 of the regular season, the 49ers? You know, you're always hoping that players can rebound quick. I will say this. Shout out to NFL coaches that literally do not reveal anything whatsoever. I don't have a great gauge on his overall health, but if he starts practicing within 2 weeks of that start time, you're going to hope that he's at least doing that. But if you're still working on the sideline, it is kind of a little bit of a coin flip. Let's go to the RC Plane Builder. Will Matt Ryan win a Super Bowl with the Colts before he calls it a career? And how many more seasons will Brady play before he retires for good this time? I don't think Matt Ryan ends up winning a Super Bowl with Indianapolis, but I do think that Colts team is a team to be reckoned with. They haven't looked good thus far in the preseason. I know, only one game. But I do think Matt Ryan is an upgrade over Carson Wentz, and if Carson Wentz doesn't choke, the Colts probably go to the playoffs last season. So they are going to be a little bit better, but the AFC is tougher. And for Tom Brady, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to give him one more year. He retired for a reason. I do understand that he's got some off-the-field issues right now, but he's 45 years old. We'll see what ends up happening, but I'm going to say one more year for Tom Brady. When you talk about the preseason, y'all, who's impressed you the most? If you want to throw in a team, go for it. You want to throw in a player, go for it. Personally, when I thought of this question, I was designing it more to be player-focused, but let me know, who has impressed you the most in the preseason so far? Next question coming in here is from Sneaky Sam. I think Desmond Ridder is already clearly better than Mariota. Should he start at quarterback? Thanks. I mean, long term, I do think Desmond Ridder is going to be better than Mariota. However, Mariota he's had a lot of injuries. The only reason why I'll say go with Mariota for the season is because I don't think the Atlanta Falcons are in win-now mode. And I always get worried when you throw quarterbacks to the Wolves, you ruin them for good. So if you think that Ridder is a long-term play, let Mariota play this season. Let Ridder learn the playbook. Let Ridder learn a little bit more, because I see a lot of times he's got the athletic tools, and when you see really good quarterbacks learn behind somebody like an Aaron Rodgers, like a Patrick Mahomes, it does end up going the right way. Now, again, he's not those two quarterbacks, but I think you can get better by sitting back 1 year and learning a little bit. What up, Elio? 11 wins, over or under for the Patriots. I'm going under. Like, producer Jack's saying under as well, and he kind of is a little upset about it. I understand that Mac Jones has been put into the NFL Top 100. That's an absolute joke to me. But this team, you've seen a lot of reports that when they lost the amount of coaches they did this offseason to the Las Vegas Raiders, I'm curious to see what they look like, because that team on paper to me doesn't really do it. Instead of 11 wins, my over-under for New England would be a lot closer to 8 and not 11. What up, K-Wright? Do you think George Pickens overtakes Chase Claypool as the number 2 in that receiving corps this year? I don't know if he does it this season, but I do think George Pickens should be one of those really, really intriguing wide receivers. And he's big, he's physical. I do like Chase Claypool a lot. I think this really could go to who's the quarterback, right? If the quarterback is Kenny Pickett, I'll actually say there's a greater chance of that happening because there's less chemistry there, right? There's already chemistry between not Mitch Trubisky, but Mason Rudolph. If Trubisky walks in right away, then sure, maybe it's Trubisky and George Pickens. He's a really intriguing player. He's going to be physical, but also Chase Claypool, I think, is the more talented player. But there was also reports last season that Claypool either did his own thing or really wasn't as motivated as what coaches wanted during practice, which could rub some people the wrong way. Now, remember, guys, we are also over on Rumble, and if you're watching this live, shout out to y'all. We're going to be doing an exclusive segment over on Rumble, and if you just want more content, free and uncensored, sports, news, politics, whatever you're looking for, this is a growing platform. Please give us a follow at rumble.com/NFL Daily. Next question. Elijah Jordan, who is the quarterback 2 for the Vikings? You want to talk about an overreaction? The amount of love I've seen around Kellen Mond has been pretty spectacular. Do I think he was better than Sean Mannion against the Raiders? Yes, but Mannion wasn't great. But also Mond, I don't really think was that good either. He missed a wide, and I'm talking wide open, Amir Smith-Marset in the end zone. It was an athletic play. He was scrambling around, ended up slinging it, and he threw it like 15 yards over his receiver's head. The Mond upside is there. And I get that, Mike Zimmer wasn't that big of a fan of him last season. But to me, Mannion is the better fit in Kevin O'Connell's system. However, Sean Mannion is about as bland as it gets. And if you're looking for upside, maybe you roll the dice a little bit with Kellen Mond. Now, if you guys love the NFL, we got you covered. If you love the NBA, we got you covered. I don't know if you noticed, on Monday we released an AP poll. Why? Because college football season's right around the corner. The reason why we're called Chat Sports is because we like talking about sports. So turn on those notifications. That way you never miss a video. And seriously, hit that subscribe button. I promise you, we're going to keep you guys up to date. Let's go to RJ. You're next up here on our NFL Daily Mailbag. If Aaron Rodgers retires, does Jordan Love get the start at quarterback, or should they draft or get quarterback in free agency? I don't think Jordan Love's any good, so I will say you have to go with a different route. I can also understand if Green Bay decides to do with a little bit of a rebuild, maybe you decide to roll with Jordan Love. The issue is this. Why roll with Jordan Love because after the time Rodgers, let's say, retires, you're going to have to pay Jordan Love, I don't know, $9, $10, $11 million, maybe, right? He's a first-round quarterback. Or you just go into free agency, find somebody cheaper, or you go in the draft and find another quarterback. That's the route I would go if I was Green Bay. Super Yoshi 6616, should the Seahawks cut Poona Ford? No. I'm not going to cut Poona Ford. I know that there's some different takes out there on him personally, but or do you mean like from the 90 to 85? If you're talking a 90-85, absolutely not. Is he a bubble roster candidate? Sure, but I'm still going to say, no, I'm not going to cut Ford. What up, Lance Jug? Do you think Malik Willis is already better than Ryan Tannehill? Right now, no. I'm still going to say Ryan Tannehill gives you a better chance to win this season. And was Malik fun to watch? Yeah, absolutely. He was lighting it up, showing his athletic ability. He had, 38 rushing yards and a touchdown. It's just NFL teams are going to get tape on Malik, and, he's not going to be able to use his legs quite as much. But from a longevity standpoint, I do think Malik Willis is going to be better than Ryan Tannehill. But how about this, y'all? I'll ask you. If you had to pick a quarterback for Tennessee, who would you go with? Would you go with Tannehill, or would you go with Malik Willis? Type RT for Ryan Tannehill or MW for Malik Willis. Junior Estrada, what up, my guy? Should the Patriots sign Will Fuller? I'm going to say no. I would figure out your wide receiver situation that you already have, because you have Nelson Aguilar, who I actually think is a big-time NFL trade candidate, because that hasn't worked out there. But you kind of already have your receiver core that you brought back. If I was Will Fuller, I would look to go to a team that is going to utilize my speed, going to utilize the deep threat, which I think the team that makes the most sense for Fuller right now is actually probably the Chicago Bears, because they have a ton of injuries at the wide receiver position, and Justin Fields is more of a deep thrower than Mac Jones. But for New England, I'm going to say no to Fuller. Also, though, if I'm a team looking at Will Fuller, I am going to make him sign a cheap contract. It can have a lot of incentives because that guy simply cannot stay healthy. Tristan, do you feel like Tom Brady will elevate Julio back to Pro Bowl form? He won't get the reps. Well, right now he's the wide receiver 3. You got Mike Evans, you got Chris Godwin, but Tom Brady has been able to show that in the offense that he played in last season, when you lead the NFL in touchdowns, when you lead the league in yards, you can have a lot of value in that wide receiver 3. If Julio can stay healthy, that's all I need. I honestly believe Julio Jones, when fully healthy, like you hop into a time portal, you give me 2019 Julio Jones, that's a top 5 wide receiver. So if Julio's healthy, the answer is yes. If he's not healthy, I don't care who's at quarterback, you're not going to elevate him. Now, guys, if I missed your question, I'm sorry. Blame producer Jack, or you can hit me up on Instagram at MitchellRenz365. Seriously, the DMs are open, and I always love answering and just talking to you guys, because that's what we try to do here at Chat Sports. Coming up next here on NFL Daily, we're going to look at some preseason Week 1 winners and losers. But I got a few questions for all of y'all, and a friendly reminder, we will be doing a NFL After Hours show over on Rumble, where we talk about some trade candidates after the preseason. So please keep that in mind. My question to you right now, which quarterback is the most overrated? Think about it. When you think about all the quarterbacks in the league, who's the most overrated? Nick Fury says Geno Smith. I think he's properly rated. I did a video last week of ranking all the starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Geno was number 32. Therefore, I don't really know if you can be overrated if you're rated as the worst starting quarterback in the league. If I were to say quarterbacks that I think are overrated, it definitely depends on who you ask. Like, I've seen some people put Trey Lance in the top 10. That's way too high for me. I would say a quarterback like Kirk Cousins can be a little bit overrated at times. I think Dak can be a little bit overrated at times. Who do you think? Jacob's NFL channel says Lamar Jackson. Super Yoshi says Kirk Cousins. Juan Hernandez says Dak. Kyler Murray is absolutely in this discussion from RJ. And SM says Kyler Murray. Deshaun Watson from Clayton Lockhart. Kathir says Trey Lance is definitely overrated. Trey Lance again. So right now, Dak, Trey Lance, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson are all the top quarterbacks featured here in terms of being the most overrated. Coming up next here, guys, we're going to get into some preseason winners and losers, so stay tuned. Hopefully you enjoyed the show, and if you haven't already, please like the video. We got to get to at least 100 on. By the time the show ends, if I don't have 100 likes, I'm going to be pretty damn upset. You're watching NFL Daily, and it's time to look at some preseason winners and losers after Week 1. If you're a winner, it's probably because you've manscaped. If you're a loser, it's probably because you don't manscape. Make sure you become a winner. Go to manscaped.com/chat, where you guys can save 20% off and get free shipping on the best male grooming products out there. So in terms of my preseason Week 1 winners and losers, I can't fit every single winner and I can't fit every single loser on the show. So what I figured I would do here is this. I'm going to give you 5 winners and 5 losers. But first, I'm a guy who likes to think glass half full. Let's look at the winners here. Let's first go to the rookie quarterbacks because, well, I was actually pretty impressed by what I saw out of some of the rookies. Now, this is excluding Matt Corral because he was just flat out bad. But there were 5 rookies that caught my attention. Sam Howell for the Commanders, Kenny Pickett for the Steelers, Malik Willis for the Titans, Desmond Ridder for the Falcons, and, yeah, sorry, Will, Skylar Thompson. All these guys put up some pretty solid numbers with their arm, but not only with their arm, their legs look pretty damn good too, right? Giggity. Sam Howell, 2 rushing touchdowns. Malik Willis, 5 for 38 and a touchdown. Desmond Ridder, 6 carries, 59 yards. Skylar Thompson led them back, right, like to a win. All of these rookie quarterbacks, to me, not only did they put up good numbers, but they passed the eye test. And I feel like way too often, NFL analysts, NFL fans, they don't trust their eyes nearly enough. And I liked what I saw out of all of these guys here. So when you talk about Sam Howell, Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Skylar Thompson, which rookie quarterback impressed you the most? Which quarterback you're like, you know what? That guy's going to be something. I don't want it just to be based off of what you saw in the draft. I want you to look at the tape, trust your eyes, look at the numbers. Which rookie quarterback impressed you the most? Let's go to a preseason week 1 loser, and I got to throw out there, it's Deshaun Watson. Like, I'm sorry. Not only was he not that impressive to me, and I'm just happy to put him on this list, the offense didn't click. He went 1 for 5 with 7 yards through the 3 series in his Browns preseason debut. Now, sure, 3 receivers dropped the football, which obviously never helps, and some quarterbacks you like to think, or some players in general, it's going to be like riding a bike. You're just going to hop right back on, and you're going to be able to cruise. I mean, this is the first game he's played in since Week 16 of 2020. He looked rusty. He looked like he was struggling to go through some of his progressions. He did not look like he was a quarterback worth $230 million, and I couldn't be happier that he looked that bad. But you have to face the fact, you're paid that much money, you got to get better results than that. The drops don't help, but Deshaun Watson did not look good whatsoever. If you're a diehard sports fan, if you like to talk sports with your friends, talk sports with your family, I guarantee you this, you subscribe and turn on those notifications to Chat Sports, you're going to learn more than you ever have before. And I always like to make this deal. Hit the subscribe button. If you don't learn more about sports in just 1 week, unsubscribe. You literally have nothing to lose. Here's the thing. I'm confident, my team's confident, that you're going to learn a lot more about sports by subscribing to Chat Sports. Let's go to the next winner here through NFL preseason week 1. Got to give it to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts looked good. Now, a lot of my buddies in the fantasy world, fantasy football world, have Jalen as a top 5 quarterback because of his running ability. And I've often come on this show and say, well, phrasing on that, right? I've been on the show and I've talked about Jalen Hurts and that he doesn't have the arm talent or he's not good at making his progressions. I was impressed by his overall reads this past week against the Jets. 6 of 6, 80 yards and a touchdown. Do they have talented wide receivers out there? Yes, absolutely. A.J. Brown looks great. Dallas Goedert, nice little touchdown catch. But if he can put together the ability to throw the football, because you know he's going to be able to run, he was the clear winner for me. Let's go to another loser here. It's Zach Wilson. And not only did Wilson injure his knee, and he's going to be out 2 to 4 weeks, but I don't really feel like many people are talking about his performance on the field, which was also not great. He was 3 of 5, 35 yards, and an interception. The biggest problem that Wilson had last season was turning over the football and making bad reads. And it was a good play by Kazir White, who stepped in front of the pass, picked it off. But Wilson, not only did he get hurt, and not only have reports been out of camp that Joe Flacco has looked better than him, he threw an interception, and he's out 2 to 4 weeks. I don't know if I've mentioned that. Let's go to a quarterback that was drafted before Wilson. It's Trevor Lawrence, and I'm going to piggyback off of winning should be Doug Peterson, and it should be Lawrence. Did Jacksonville lose the game? Yeah. But last season as a rookie, Lawrence scared the hell out of me. I was like, oh my gosh, this kid looks lost. And maybe he just looked lost because Urban Meyer is a fraud. But Lawrence, to me, showed good arm talent. 6 of 12, 95 yards, and a touchdown. I was impressed by the number 1 overall pick. I don't think he's going to be a bust. I think he's going to be somebody who you can rely on going forward. Trevor Lawrence, to me, though, was absolutely a winner. Now, if you guys are looking to be a winner in their dating life, remember, NFL Daily Day is presented by Manscaped. 20% off and free shipping on some awesome male grooming products. Personally, my favorite product is the Lawnmower 4.0. It is a really, really nifty tool to shave not only your downstairs, but your entire body as well. Manscaping might sound weird. I remember the first time I told my dad, I manscape. He was like, you do what? I was like, I just make sure that my body is nice, cleaned, and trimmed. Like, you go get a haircut, don't you? Do you brush your teeth? There are certain things that you do in your daily life. Why? It's good hygiene. It's good hygiene to make sure that you're just not a hairy freaking beast, man. So 20% off and free shipping is going to be the way that you get started here at manscaped.com/chat. I promise you guys, you're going to love all the tools that Manscaped has to offer. Let's go to the next loser, Mike McCarthy. He probably doesn't manscape. Head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And anytime you're the head coach of the Cowboys, there's going to be a lot of magnifying glasses on you, right? I mean, it's America's team. It's part of it. Here's the issue, though, okay? 17 penalties. That's it to me. 17 penalties is never good. But it's not only that. I think it's the lack of urgency or the lack of passion that I saw in that Cowboys game. But, Mitch, it's preseason. I don't care. If I'm an NFL player and I'm fighting for my job, even if it's a preseason game, you got to go out there and show some urgency. And fortunately, it starts at the top. Mike McCarthy, I don't think it was a good hire for the Cowboys. I didn't like him at the Green Bay Packers. I think he was saved by Aaron Rodgers. And the very first time you go out on the field there, your team commits 17 penalties and showed that they didn't even want to be there. For that reason, Mike McCarthy's on the hot seat, and he's absolutely a preseason loser thus far. Let's go back to the winner's circle here. I'm going to look at quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, Trey Lance. I did a show last week, and I talked about the top 10 players that had the most to prove in the preseason. Number one on that list was Trey Lance, and he looked good, man. The arm talent was impressive, 4 of 5, 92 yards, and a touchdown. I still am not crazy about his overall mechanics. He's kind of got that weird hitch in his shoulder, long delivery. But you know what? It's one of those things, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. And I do want him to clean it up a little bit, but you have to be impressed by Trey Lance's performance. And I think he's got a really great opportunity this upcoming season with a great head coach in Kyle Shanahan. Now, we just talked about Trevor Lawrence, and we talked about Trey Lance. Two winners for me, both young quarterbacks, right? Who do you think's the better quarterback? Do you think it's Trevor Lawrence, type 16, or do you think it's Trey Lance? I want you to type 5. Long term, I'm going to go Trevor Lawrence. This upcoming season, though, it might be Trey Lance. The next loser here after preseason week 1, you could say Justin Fields. You could also, though, just say the Bears' offensive line. I don't think Fields played bad, which is why I didn't feature him here. But the biggest issue, I would say, for Chicago entering the offseason was upgrading the offensive line. And the offensive line was bad yet again against Kansas City. Like, you allowed 5 sacks. What I'm really worried is going to happen is, you remember Andrew Luck, Indianapolis, and I'm not sitting here just saying Justin Fields and Andrew Luck are the same player. I'm not. But Andrew Luck retired so freaking early because of the beating that he took on his body because the Colts, they never paid attention to the offensive line. I'm kind of worried that Chicago is like, the offensive line here is not that big of a deal. It's bad, and it's going to be bad again this season. And if you don't start protecting your quarterback, I'm sorry, it's going to be another very, very long year. So the Chicago Bears offensive line, L on your forehead. If you think I'm a loser and you want to yell at me on social media, here's how you can do it. Hit me up on Instagram. Get out your camera phone right now. Hover over that just like you do at a restaurant. Give me a follow on Instagram. Come yell at me. I want to see what you guys have to say. The next winner here, I'm going to go with DeAndre Swift. And not that I saw a lot out of Swift, but I was actually impressed by the Lions' first-team offense, which is something that I don't know if I ever thought I would say. But Swift to me, 4 carries, 20 yards. Ready for an awful dad joke? He looked swift. He looked good. Rushing touchdown. Like, to me, the offense is going to run through him. And he's the type of running back that can catch the football. So, like, even if the Lions are losing, he's going to get work. If you want a sneaky running back in some fantasy football leagues, I think he's got top 10 potential. Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of success there in Detroit, But I remember a few years ago when Reggie Bush was a very good running back for the Lions. I could see DeAndre Swift having a very similar year to that, and he looks like he could be an actual bell cow running back, in my opinion. Now, those are my winners so far through preseason week 1. I'll do this show probably next week, and I'm curious what you guys have to say because I like talking sports. I want to hear what you guys are thinking from your preseason week 1 takeaway. So name a winner that you feel like I left off my list. We're going to stick here with the running backs, and I'm going to look at Antonio Gibson. And Gibson was a back that I really was hoping could figure out some of the issues that plagued him last season, and that was turning over the football. Unfortunately for him, he had 4 carries, 2 yards, averaged half a yard, but he fumbled the football. He put the ball on the ground, turned it over at about the 19-yard line, which then led to a score for Carolina. Gibson last season, when J.D. McKissic was on the field, did not have nearly the amount of work, and I believe McKissic's going to be the pass-catching back. Do not be surprised if this coaching regime starts punishing Gibson a little bit. So if you thought he was going to be your first and second down back, sorry, that's not going to happen, and I really, truly believe when you see some of these reports, he could be the third running back on this team. I know it sounds crazy, but if he can't hang on to the football, it's not going to be great. So let's wrap up today's show with my preseason week 1 winners and losers. If you could, take a screenshot, post it on Instagram, post it on Twitter. Make sure you tag Chat Sports. Make sure you tag me, and you know what? Since Manscaped's down there, get them a tag too. All right, y'all, name a preseason week 1 winner. Come on, go down to the comment section right now. Let's rally it up here a little bit. Name a preseason week 1 winner. I know some of y'all are talking about the Raiders having 2 preseason games. Yeah, but the NFL Hall of Fame game is technically not week 1. It's technically preseason week 0, which I hate that they say it like that, but that is how it goes. Come on, let me know. We got the Bills secondary is in there. Interesting. That's my team, the Packers, from RJ. Why the hell did we need J.J. Whiteside? All right, so we're talking about a trade from earlier on. Telefor says the Saints. My opinion says Jarrett Stidham. The issue is Nick Mullins was better than Jarrett Stidham against the Vikings. We got Clayton Lockhart says Deron Bland. Boye Mafe from Nick Fury 55. DJ Dallas from Carth. Kenny Pickett from RJ. I thought Kenny Pickett also played pretty well. Let me know down in the comments section a preseason week 1 winner. Coming up now here on NFL Daily, it's mailbag time, and this is going to be where I answer your questions. So for the next 12 to 15 minutes, if you could use hashtag NFL or Super Chat, I would appreciate it. Keep in mind, though, after today's mailbag, we are going to end the live show on YouTube. I'm going to go over to Rumble and Rumble only, so shout out to the Rumble audience over there. And I'm going to do a top 7 players that could be traded after the NFL preseason week 1. Does that sound good to y'all? Sure hope so. Hashtag NFL or Super Chat. Let me get a sip of water, and then we'll get the show going. Ready? Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Let's get it. It's mailbag time here on NFL Daily. Mitchell Renz. I use Manscaped, and you guys should too. Get 20% off and free shipping by going to manscaped.com/chat. The best male grooming products in the entire world, hell, and the entire Milky Way galaxy. Let's go to Carth. What up, my man? Do you see Robert Quinn coming to Seattle through a trade? If so, how much draft capital would it take? Do I see Robert Quinn going to Seattle? No. Robert Quinn wants to go to a team that can contend. Robert Quinn wants to go to a team that's going to be a contender, right? Like, yeah, Seattle might be able to pay him, but it doesn't make sense for the Seahawks because they're not in win-now mode right now. Quinn, to me, I would say the top teams that make the most sense for him, honestly, Dallas Cowboys and then the Las Vegas Raiders because of the connections that Quinn has with both of those organizations. What up, RJ? The Dallas Cowboys just love getting penalties. Are the Cowboys going to fire Mike McCarthy if they don't make the playoffs? I would. Personally, again, if you're the Dallas Cowboys, if you don't make the playoffs, every year it's going to be the hot seat. So if you were to ask me just why for yes and for no, if the Cowboys don't make the playoffs, I'm going to say yes, Mike McCarthy is done. What up, Ray? What do you think of Justin Fields? He is my fantasy quarterback. Oh, yeah. He definitely has upside. The issue is I like Justin Fields. I don't like the situations he's in, right? A lot of times when you look at fantasy football, it's not about do you think the player's good? It's about the situation. The Bears have arguably the worst receiving core in all of football. You have arguably the worst offensive line in all of football. You just hired a head coach that's a defensive-minded guy. So, like, honestly, Justin Fields is your fantasy quarterback. I don't know if that's the right move to make. Empire One, how long do you think Drake London is going to be out? Oh, man, I'm hoping that he's ready for week 1. Drake was a player that I had a lot of high hopes for when he first came out of the draft. Remember, first wide receiver taken this past year, went to the Atlanta Falcons. Really athletic player from top to bottom. I'm hoping that he's going to be ready for week 1, but they're not going to rush him back. So even if he doesn't make it back by week 1, you're hoping that he's going to be out there for week 2 or 3, but I'm going to say he's going to be ready by week 1. Now, guys, NFL Daily, remember, presented by our awesome sponsor, Manscaped. If anybody out there is single, the number one thing that I would recommend, honestly, is making sure that you're taking care of your body and that you're, hygienic. Like, I always tell people, if you use deodorant underneath your armpits, why? It's because you want to smell good. Do you brush your teeth? Yeah, it's good hygiene. Do you get your hair cut? Maybe some of you do. Do you shower? I hope so. I also think that oftentimes we don't put other things that maybe we didn't grow up with into our hygiene routine. Women, believe it or not, like the way you smell a lot more than the way you look. Sometimes you got a lot of hair in some unnecessary areas. You don't smell all that great. So here's the thing. Because we love you guys so much, and I don't want you to grow up lonely, go to manscaped.com/chat. 20% off and free shipping. Try the Lawnmower 4.0. It's usually like $90. We're going to get you for $71. It's got an awesome battery life. It's not going to go crazy in your hand. It's barely even vibrates in there. Plus, you can see how long the battery life is because I don't know if you've ever been shaven and then the battery just dies and you're left with like half a beard like Harrison Graham. No, it's not going to happen. Manscaped's going to hook you guys up, so please try it out. Comments and in the description, you can find that link. Let's go to Danger. Robert Quinn to the Eagles for a second and Jalen Reagor. If I was Chicago, I actually like this offer personally because you're getting a receiver. You need receiver help. Philadelphia is definitely ballsy enough to try to pull off a deal like this for the simple fact of you never know what Howie's going to do. Howie Roseman, one of the most aggressive GMs. But I do think this trade helps out both the teams. Jacob's NFL channel. Will the Bills cut Case Keenum? I'm going to say no. He's a good backup, and you're not necessarily looking for a high upside backup. You have Josh Allen. What you're essentially looking for is a quarterback who you believe is going to be able to get your team good reps during practice. Because if Keenum's ever on the field, it's probably because Josh Allen is hurt. And I actually thought Keenum going to Buffalo made a lot of sense. So are they going to cut him? No. I think you have to consider the fact that sometimes having a veteran quarterback that can help you out in practice, it actually goes a long way. All right, totally random question here. I graduated high school in 2011. So I want to know, because I'm always trying to get to know our audience a little bit better, what year did you graduate high school? Jack, producer Jack, what year did you graduate high school? He graduated in 2017. My God, I graduated college in 2015. Marvin Daniels says 2007, so he's a little bit closer to my age. 2026. Okay, so he's a few years away. Chris says 2012. My opinion, 1988. Let me know down in the comments what year you graduated high school. One of my OGs, Jeff Rogers, whose stats are going to suffer the most with the addition of Devontae Adams, Waller or Renfrow? The most, I'm probably going to go with Renfrow because I still see Darren Waller being the better overall player than Renfrow. However, if Waller doesn't get on the field soon, I do think that minor chemistry could be impacted because Carr and Renfrow are locked in. But if you were to ask me, all right, Renfrow over 100 catches last season, I think he goes down to about 75. And then I see Darren Waller probably also being around that 75 catch threshold because Adams is going to get his. Adams is going to be around 105, 110 catches. So I'll say Renfrow because the touchdown numbers at 9 are going to come down. So overall, I'll say Renfrow, but both players are going to be impacted. But it's okay because you're better overall. Junior Estrada, should the Patriots trade Nelson Aguilar? Yes. If If you're not going to use him, try to move on from him. I will say what makes it difficult, though, by trading away Aguilar, the new team has to take on $10 million. Coming off the year that Aguilar had, I don't know if there's going to be many teams out there interested to take on a deal of $10 million. I would say the only team willing to do it would potentially be the Las Vegas Raiders because of how good Aguilar was with Las Vegas just 2 seasons ago, where he had 47 grabs, 96 yards, and 9 or 8 touchdowns. The other issue is the Raiders like Keelan Cole, they like Matt Collins, they like Tyron Johnson, they like DeMarcus Robinson, so trading for Aguilar at $10 million a year doesn't really make a lot of sense. S&M, do you think the Bears trade Robert Quinn, and where do you think he might go? Well, how about this, S&M? I've released multiple videos. I know Chat Sports has released multiple videos on Robert Quinn trade destinations. I've done multiple blockbuster trade ideas for Robert Quinn. I do think that he ends up getting dealt. It might not be at the beginning of the year, but by the NFL trade deadline, when the Bears aren't in the running anymore, and there's going to be a team out there that probably suffers a defensive end injury, or a team that's really going to be like, you know what, we got to go all in right now. So it might not happen now, but I do think it will happen eventually. Tighten up 75. Jeffrey Simmons was ranked 54 on the NFL Top 100 list. What are your thoughts on this list? Overall, the list always, I think, kind of sucks. There's a lot of rankings that make me scratch my head, but Jeffrey Simmons, to me, top 5 defensive tackle in the league right now, coming off a year we had 11.5 sacks. I think he's absolutely a top 60 player, but when I do my rankings every year, I'm like, all right, is he top 50? So how about this, y'all? Let's ask this question. Shout out to Jack for making this on the fly. Is Jeffrey Simmons a top 50 player? Y for yes or N for no? Man, it's close. Like, I think if you ask a Titan fan, they're probably going to say yes. And he's in a good system for his ability, no doubt about that. He continues to get better and better. I think he had 8.5 sacks the year before that. But anytime you're getting a DT that has 11 sacks, double-digit sacks, some pretty good numbers there. Let me know what you guys think, though. Top 50 player, Y for yes, and for no. Here at Chat Sports, man, we're a big-time family, so if you want the best NFL news coverage, if a trade happens, we got you covered. If there's a big-time move that goes down, we got you covered. If you want to just interact with us, because that's what we do, hit the subscribe button, turn on those notifications. What up, Marvin? Should the Steelers start Kenny Pickett? He looked pretty good this week. I mean, all the quarterbacks I thought for Pittsburgh looked pretty good. I'll say for the Steelers, the only quarterback I'm not starting is Mason Rudolph. To me, Mason Rudolph makes absolutely no sense to start him. If Pittsburgh was smart, I would look to send him away in a trade. Get something. I do think, though, it comes down to Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky, because you signed Trubisky to probably be your starter in the offseason, but you drafted Pickett at number 20. I could say a healthy competition is a good thing, but I kind of know what Mitch Trubisky is. I don't necessarily know what Pickett is, and Pickett did look pretty good. So I would lean towards Kenny, but I could understand them going with Mitch Trubisky. Anish, do you think Rashad Penny and Drew Lock will both dominate this season and prove doubters wrong? Dominate? No. I mean, Rashad Penny's got to get healthy because he looked really good at the end of last season. In fact, he looked like a top 5 running back at the end of last season. But the injuries have always been a big-time issue, and the fact that he has a brand-new groin injury, which was sustained, like Thursday or Friday, I believe, last week, I want to get more reports and more updates on that. But Drew Lock, to me, isn't a top 30 quarterback in the league. So, dominate? No. I think if the Seattle Seahawks can come away this season with 5 wins, 6 wins, it's probably what you're looking at. Tyrone Jenkins, who was a winner and loser from the Vikings game against the Raiders? I'll say winner. I thought the linebacker from Oklahoma, Brian Asamoah, was flying all over the football field. He was good tackling. He was also really impressive as a coverage linebacker, which is what I look for, especially in young guys. I would say a loser, probably Andrew Booth Jr. I was hoping to get a little bit more out of him, the cornerback from Clemson, but the Raiders kind of picked on him a little bit. And sure, Las Vegas went out there with Tyron Johnson, Keelan Cole, Matt Collins, some of their players that you could get actual starting reps for them during the regular season. But I thought Andrew Booth could be the starter next to Patrick Peterson. So winner, Samoa. I'll say loser, probably Andrew Booth Jr. If you want to get more content around the Raiders, any diehard Raider fans out there, please don't ever be shy. You can always join my awesome locals community at RaidersReport.locals.com. Scan that QR code right there. I put out a video last week about a Raiders player that I think could potentially get traded. And there's been some pretty interesting reports out there. If it happens, this will be the second trade that I've guessed correctly on locals. The first one I talked about was Bryan Edwards. A few hours later, he got traded. So all I'm saying is if you want to see who this could potentially be, go over to locals right now. My opinion, do you like Mullins more than Stidham? Yeah, I do. I think Nick Mullins is a better quarterback than Jarrett Stidham. Now, when you look at the preseason games, Stidham outplayed Mullins in the first NFL Hall of Fame game, but I thought Nick Mullins outplayed Jarrett Stidham in the second preseason game for the Raiders. Stidham does look like he still knows the offense more, but I just think Nick Mullins is a better quarterback. So we'll see what ends up happening, but I do like Mullins more than I like Jarrett Stidham. All right, y'all, I dare you to turn on your notifications right now. There's going to be a little bell underneath the video. Wait, let's see if I can get to it. There you go. I want you to tickle that bell a little bit. Turn on your notifications to all, so if we drop a video here on Chat Sports, you never miss a thing. All right, y'all, I appreciate everyone who tuned into our live show here on YouTube. We're going to hop out of YouTube, and we are going to go to Rumble and Rumble After Hour show. Shout out to WS84, who's live on Rumble right now. Appreciate you guys tuning in. So if you haven't already subscribed, we go live every single Monday, every single Wednesday on YouTube for NFL Daily content. We're going to keep that train rolling. So please hit that subscribe button and join us for our NFL After Hour show on Rumble. The link is down there below at rumble.com/NFL Daily. So if you could, I know I would greatly appreciate it. So please, please, please head on over there right now, because what we're going to do is I'm going to be breaking down 7 NFL players that I believe could potentially get traded after NFL Week 1 of the preseason. Because every time that we look at it, there's always some crazy stuff that ends up going down. So join us for our NFL After Hours show. I'm going to end the show here on YouTube once Jack gives me the thumbs up, and we are going to go exclusively over on Rumble. Appreciate everyone who tuned in on YouTube. Sorry, need a sip of water. But shout out to everyone tuned in. If you want to shout out, go to Rumble right now. Spam Rumble or spam Real One. That way I know you guys are over there and ready to get this thing going. So type Real One if you're watching on Rumble, because we're about to end the show here on YouTube in 3, 2, just kidding.